It's business, it's life, all in one show. Laughter and inspiring stories are catching up. Let the world hear your stories. Be but business, be by business. Buddha, that's the show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Business Buddha podcast. On this episode, we got our special guest all the way from Singapore, Alvin Poh, who exited his business Volden for over 30 million Sing dollars when he was young, and now serial entrepreneur, investor, educator, and life enjoyer. So we got the life enjoyer here, just cruising around life with us. And in this podcast, we're gonna talk a lot about that. But let's just jump right in. Alvin, thank you for being here. So I like to hold no bars, and I like to go deep. So let's just get the elephant out of the way. You wanted to build this business for exit, or you were just like doing it when you were young, part-time, and then it became something bigger than you realized?
I wish it was something that I had a foresight of, but honestly, for me, I started a business because it was something that I needed money, I needed an income. Yeah. And at that point of time, you have to understand, like, way back as a kid, it all started from me doing part-time jobs, dabbling in entrepreneurship. Yeah. Although at that point of time, I didn't know it was called entrepreneurship. Slowly that led me down the path of falling in love with technology and computers. I started playing a lot with a computer, taught myself graphics design, programming, and that skill set turned out to be a skill set that people needed. This was probably in the 1990s, 2000, and I remember my first client or my first customer back then was one of my uncles. Yeah. He had a small business, and at that point in time, websites were starting to become more popular, and he knew that I was on the computer all the time. So he actually asked me to design a website for his business. The money wasn't a lot because I was his nephew. I was very young, and it's a.
How old were you back then? Like 18?
I was really no. I was like in secondary school.
Or
so
like
I was
13,
like
14,
14, okay. 15. Yeah, and he asked me to do it, and I was like, yeah, let's do it, right? And I didn't even know how to design a website back then. I just said yes, and then I went to figure out how to do it. So I reverse engineered a whole bunch of websites, figure out like how it actually worked. Back then it was mainly HTML. CSS wasn't even something that people was working on. But I managed to just create a website based on HTML and some graphics, and that was my first actual paid project, right? And it just blew my mind because now it showed me that it was possible to make money off this skill set. And I started doing freelance web design projects from then. And from the freelance web design projects, I actually, got more and more clients. I met my business co-founder in school. We started a
This
business
was in
together.
university or secondary?
Before that. We were 17. We were the same age. I went to a polytechnic in Singapore, and he was literally the first guy I talked to in school.
And he became your co-founder?
Yeah. I went to school completely alone. Like, it was polytechnic. Most of my secondary school friends had gone to other schools, and so I was the only guy there. And I sat down in the auditorium on like day 0. It was like an introduction to the polytechnic, orientation day or something. And so I sat down beside that guy, I just started talking.
And was it like connection at first sight? It's like, hey, like, let's work together, or like?
No, I don't know that guy. So I was like, hello. And then because we were in the same course and all that, we started hanging out, working on projects together, becoming like project team members. Helped each other out in school. We have very similar work ethic, and because of that, I think
when you guys graduated, then
even before that.
Before, then you really created Volden.
Yeah. So during school, everything was great for schoolwork, and then when the school holidays came, then we started doing like Volden back then. But Volden wasn't Volden. Volden was just a freelance business.
Yeah, it was just a freelance, something you were testing. So when did it became like a freelance, became a serious business?
We realized that we needed to form a company because we couldn't invoice customers, and then it's like quite sketchy if just two kids come up to you and ask if you want to design a website. So we had to create a company, And at that point in time, we couldn't even do that because we were too young. So it was all done under my father's name. And that was the birth of Vodian. And Vodian at the start was a web design
Web
only.
design firm. Oh, okay. So what made you shift? So in the end, you guys ended up a web hosting company, right? So
Yeah.
what was the shift?
This is the difference between a service-based business, which is web design, and a product-based business, which is hosting. And again, we didn't know this at that point in time. We didn't know all these terms. All we knew was the fact that as students juggling work and school, we had a shortage of time. And the web design business is something where you need a lot of time. You know, the prospecting, the onboarding, the fulfillment work, and then you got to repeat. It's not like you get a recurring business just like that. And so we were asking ourselves, like, what can we do to make this a recurring business, a product-based business, something that's scalable? And when we looked at the resources that we had, everything that we had on the table, the one thing that every one of our clients needed was web hosting. And we were like, you know, let's give this a try. Let's do web hosting. The web hosting that we started with wasn't even like the Vodian that it became. It was a reseller business at the start.
So you didn't even have the technology. You just took somebody else's web hosting service and resold it.
Yeah. So that was how we got started. We were basically the middleman, like a white label service. We had customers, and then there were web hosting providers, and we just packaged their web hosting services and sold them to our customers. That was great for a while, but in any reselling business or white label business, the main problem is that you're highly dependent on your supplier. And the issue that we faced was that whenever there was a problem with the customer, or whenever a customer faced a problem, they'll come to us. And because we didn't own the infrastructure or the hosting business, we had to go contact the supplier for help. And then there would be this back and forth, and that really degraded the support experience, right? Sometimes there would be issues that we couldn't even resolve. We couldn't resolve the issues, and we could just, the only thing we could do was to apologize and to try to delay it as long as we could until the resolution was achieved. So after a few months, we realized, if we really wanted to grow, that wasn't the way. And eventually, one day, we were like, let's start our own hosting business. Let's get a server of our own and start providing the services ourselves so that we could be in full control of everything.
And that's where the Vodian came to be. Wow. Okay, so two things that I took note when you were telling me that. When you were young, like, you didn't know how to design website, right? But then you had this keen of like, I don't know it. But I said yes first, and I deconstructed or learned the skill later. Where did this? And then I noticed a lot of entrepreneurs, even me myself included, like, we say yes to opportunity, but then we don't have the answers, right? But then it also comes back to a bit of imposter syndrome, where like we go like, am I a fraud? What do you see about this? Like, what drove you, or what made you say yes even though you had no answers? Because entrepreneurs, we say yes even though we don't answers, and we figure it out later. But then there's a lot of people, the general public, they go, no, I just don't know. So what's your thoughts about that?
I think imposter syndrome is a very interesting phenomenon because it really is something that's based on ego. And if you remove ego, there really is no consequence of imposter syndrome, or no judgment of imposter syndrome. So I'd say there are two main areas that will cause it. One is the ego, and two is the consequences. Back then, as a kid, I had none of these. I had no ego because I was a kid. I was naive. I was like, hey.
Yeah, because most of the kids,
right?
they just say yes. Like, want to play? Yes.
Yeah, I'll do whatever you want, right? Because you're a kid, right? You don't have the responsibilities of an adult. You don't have responsibilities of anything.
Or how people judge you.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you don't really care what people think of you. And number two, that there are no consequences. There's no family overheads. There's no responsibilities. You have no dependents. You're basically a kid, right? And so I think these are the two things that, I mean, when you don't have them, there's really no reason to have imposter syndrome. And I guess that was the spot that I was in naturally as a kid, and that was why I was able to do that. But I think entrepreneurs as a whole, or anybody, as long as they remove these two things, they realize that there's no need, or there's no need for imposter syndrome.
And one thing that also came up, right, was also something that you also said, like you didn't have the answer for web hosting, and then you resold versus building it yourself. So let's talk a bit about this. Like a lot of young people right now or entrepreneurs, they have this concept like I need to build everything myself. Now, if we were to reverse time, would you build it yourself, or would you still stick to resell first, go through that pain that you went through, the back and forth, but then I built later? Like, how would you look at it based on your experience?
I think it's all got to do with, you need to consider again the resources that you have, and the abilities that you have, and what else you have on your plate. So at that point of time, and even if I had to go back again, right, I'll probably still go through that process, simply because reselling was something that allowed us to start. When we made the decision to create our own web hosting business and set up our own infrastructure, we were already at a point where we had several clients. And so if we did that move, we could actually start not from zero, but we could hit the ground running, because we already had customers and we could just migrate them to our own platform. At the start, if you have no customers, if you have no capital, then something like reselling is actually a really good thing, right? Because then you can actually minimize the risk and start doing other things like marketing and actually growing your business. And I think that's a great place to start.
And which then plays into the ego, because some people, it's just the ego, I want to have my own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so when was the time where you realized okay, it has outgrown both of us, and we need to treat it like a real company? Was it through mistake or was it by accident where you started hiring people, or was it a conscious decision
To actually
scale
create our
the whole
own
thing?
infrastructure? When we chose to create our own infrastructure, I think it stemmed from one of the core reasons we started the whole business in the first place, and that was to really serve our customers. We wanted to create value. We wanted to be different from what other people were doing, different in a way that we could do things better than them. And one of the problems that was faced in the web hosting industry, and this was about 2002, one of the problems that was faced by the web hosting industry was that even for the very big web hosting providers, you don't get 24/7 support. You get maybe extended hours, like 9 a.m. to maybe 9 p.m., and then that's it. Anything else, you needed to wait for the next business day before you get a response, before you get an answer. And the problem with their support is, even if you do speak to them, sometimes they don't even know what they're talking about. Sometimes they can't help you. And we know this because we were customers in the web hosting industry ourselves. And so we wanted to solve that problem. But when we went into reselling web hosting and eventually starting our own web hosting business ourselves, we realized that as a reseller, you don't get control, right? And you cannot fulfill and you cannot support your clients properly. So that's why we made the decision to actually transit and create something of our own, so that we can control the whole experience and become a great hosting provider for our clients.
It sounds like you focus a lot on the value you can provide your clients. Can you tell us more about that? What's your principle of business? Because from what I hear, there's a lot of saying hey, how can we create value? How can we make it easier? How can we give them a better experience? Where a lot of business owners just, how can I make more money?
So the way I look at business is really from the perspective of a consumer, a customer, a client. As a customer, if I go to a business, any business, from a fast food restaurant to a business service, I have experienced companies where I get so frustrated. The product isn't delivered as expected. It's so difficult talking to them. If there's a problem, it cannot get resolved, and you always feel like you're either being ripped off or left in the lurch, right? And that's never an experience that I like. And so when I come across businesses that delight you, everything from the checkout experience or to the onboarding, to the fulfillment, to the customer support is fantastic, you feel good, right? And that's the experience that I want to provide as a business owner also. And that's why value is so important. in creating our company, I think the first thing that we started was the pillar of support. Making sure that our customers, our clients, they all get great support. And that was something that guided us in the creation of our business and the growth of our initial few years.
This is very interesting because most people, they don't think about support as the first pillar. They think about sales. They think about marketing. How can I sell more? And then support usually tends to become operational, right? Like it's operational cost. It doesn't make money. So like, how do you balance between sales and having a heavy operation support team
For us,
for the early days, especially?
yeah, so for us, I think sales and marketing for us stems from having a great product. And in the hosting space, a great product, because hosting is quite a commodity, we see hosting as something that needs great support. It has to have support because it's so technical. The average hosting customer is your small business owner who typically does not have the expertise, knowledge, or the know-how to use or to set up his own website. And so for hosting, one of the things that we focused on primarily was providing that support together to create a great product. And that actually helped us with our sales and marketing because it was so much easier to tell people, hey, you know what, if you're looking for hosting, the reason why we are better than anyone else is support. Our product was great. All right, so that's why that pillar that we had, that first pillar, was so important.
Well, it's actually very unique because you flip it on. Because most people, even books, they always say focus on sales, marketing first. But I realized one thing you said was very beautiful. It's when you're a commodity, focus on support first. Because when you focus on support, the commodity becomes a great product. Then it helps sales and marketing even easier.
Yeah, well, it's not just a commodity, right? But I think it's again, it's probably individual to every industry, product or service. We just have to find the key selling features of your product, right? I'm not saying that I didn't care about sales or marketing. I'm saying that in selling, in order to sell in our industry, it was a lot easier, or it was a lot clearer to our customers when we told them that, hey, this is web hosting, but this is web hosting that comes with great support. And for any other product or service, you can do that as well, But of course, you need to find out what is it that
What's the X factor?
Yeah, the selling point, the X factor.
So one of the things I want to ask is, when you started off, did you had any investors or did you bootstrap Voiden all the way?
Voiden was completely bootstrapped.
Completely bootstrapped. So how close do you come out of running out of money? Because building an infrastructure, right, servers, all that, it's going to cost a lot, right? And then you got a big support team, that's also going to cost a lot. So, like, how many times were you on the edge of falling off?
So we were never in that situation.
Oh, how do you make sure you never fall out like that?
I think from the start, as a bootstrap company, one of the most important things for us, right, is profit or money in the bank that's necessary to tide us through the following few months. And that was the number one KPI that we had for ourselves. My co-founder and I think that was our single focus. Profit was there for the continuity and the survival of the business. We did not want to get into debt. We did not want to raise funds. We wanted to make sure that we had enough on our own abilities to fund whatever that we need moving forward. So in terms of infrastructure, where we had to buy the servers, in terms of manpower, when we had to grow the team, we only did that when we had the funds and the capability to do that, and then we reinvested the profits.
Okay,
into
so this is
funding that
very
growth.
different from Silicon Valley thinking. Silicon Valley thinking, or the VC world, PE world, it's all about, if you know you have a great product, just get funding, scale it as fast as possible. But you also flip it on its head and basically go like, until we have the money, only do we expand. Which is very contrarian thinking compared to a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs, especially people who are in the tech business or IT business. What do you say about that? Like, do you think, looking back, it hindered your growth? Or will you say, looking back, it's just like, no, I will still run any business the way exactly it is?
It's very dependent on the industry. I mean, I also advise venture companies and venture funds, and you see two different kinds of businesses. For venture-backed companies, we are really looking at growth. These days, a bit of profits as well, but like in the initial years, especially when venture-backed companies were concerned, the one key thing that they looked at was growth, and growth at all costs. That's why companies like Uber, they expanded so quickly internationally, and the money was there to expand. And the faster they got the growth, the faster they expanded, the faster they grew in their numbers, the customers, their revenue, the better, right? Profit was something that was not the main priority at all. But coming from my world, I was a student. I was a student entrepreneur. I had no money. My family background was not the best, and we had to make sure that our finances as a business were in check. And it's a different way than venture-backed businesses, but I'd say it's a more sustainable method, because it really forces you to really look at the fundamentals, like the P&L that you have, the growth strategy, the plans that you put in place, and whether that's something that's sustainable from the actual business cash flow itself. So I think that's the main difference.
And let's talk a bit about that, right? So after you grew it, when you look at your partner, like, do you guys have like an agreement? Do you guys like sort everything out, like who handles what early on, or was it this let's go, brother? Like how do you guys got clear of roles, and then when do you realize you had to do you guys complement each other, or were you both like same strengths?
I guess we were like same but different. And what I talked about, the work ethics that we found in each other was similar, and that was great because we could see that in school, the way that we handled school projects, did work, and all that. I think that was similar, which was excellent. And in the initial years, there was only just the two of us, right? And so everything just depended on us, and it was a lot easier because it's two of us to really split the work. At that point of time, it was just a matter of just getting whatever that it is done. If there's needed to make phone calls or cold calls or prospect, then just get it done. If there was a client deadline and we need to fulfill the project, let's do it. You do this, I do that, and you get it done. But as the business grew, in terms of the number of manpower, the responsibilities and the roles, then we started discovering that we needed very clear boundaries. We needed clear communication. We needed to make sure that this area needed to be owned by someone, either him, me, or one of our team, so that there was ownership and so that somebody was actually driving results and performance in that specific area. And that was only something that we learned later on.
Do you learn it by mistake, or do you have to hire somebody to come in?
We learned it along the way.
Just try and error.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk a bit the height of Voden before you guys saw it. If I'm not wrong, the height was 150 staff, 35,000 customers. That was was that the peak of Voden? And then, if that was the peak, how much revenue you guys were making roughly?
We're roughly doing about 12 mil a year.
12 mil a year, Singapore.
12 mil a year. Profit margins of about 3 to 4 mil.
3 to 4 mil. And then when you reach this part, right? If you're looking back, do you had a mistake you made that stopped you from growing even more, or do you think that everything was?
Oh, there were a lot of mistakes that we faced, of course.
What were a few as you were growing and scaling the business?
I remember even at the start, and one of the things that we faced was, and you mentioned the part about like imposter syndrome and not knowing how to do things, right? We did not know how to do anything at all. As first-time entrepreneurs, even like hiring a team member was a completely foreign process, right? But we were forced to hire. Like when we needed to hire, we were like, okay, we need to hire, but how do we do it? Right? It's not just like that, right? And then you start growing your team. Even when you want to hire, you realize, how do you come up with an employment contract? Where do you hire? What do you put in the employment contract? What are the terms that you have? How much do you pay? When do you pay? How do you pay? Everything from the pay slips to, in Singapore, the CPF.
You guys had to figure it out.
Yeah, figure everything out. And you know, for us, we actually had to go ask our business friends how they did it, borrow their employment contract template, and then use it ourselves. We just basically changed the terms that suit us, or remove the terms that didn't suit us. Then created a very, very simple, basic version, and then used that. The very first employee that we were in a shared office at that point of time. Shared in the sense that
Like
we
a
were
co-working
basically-
space.
But at that point of time, there wasn't really much of a co-working space. WeWork and all the co-working spaces weren't around.
Oh, it's just like
So-
office spec this with somebody else.
Yeah, so we actually went to find an office space and find like 2 other businesses that needed space as well. And so I think 3 of us just split the space accordingly to number of desks that we had. And yeah, that's the first office that we had. When we first hired our first employee, we made a mistake of actually talking about the employment contract
In
with
front.
the employee
Oh,
in the office
oh my
itself.
god. With other businesses there.
With everybody else around us. And we were like, oh yeah, let's talk. Not knowing that, actually these are actually more sensitive and more like, confidential, and we should have just done that in a meeting room. We only realized that after the fact, and then we were like, oh, actually this feels a bit wrong. And then, then these are the things that we started learning along the way. There are so many mistakes that we had to learn.
What pushes you to consider going to try and error? Because most people, like after they go through a field, right, they literally go, I don't know what I'm doing, I give up.
But for us, there was no choice.
You felt you didn't have a choice.
We didn't want to. It's not that we didn't. Well, I'd say that for us, I think we really wanted to make this work. And
What drove both of you? Like, was it impact? Was it like growth? Was it just like hitting numbers?
at the start, starting the business, I guess for both of us was, our career. It was we either graduate and then find a job, or make sure Vodian worked. And I think that was something that was a key driving factor for us as well. We had to make the business work. And I guess, again, boiling back to the work ethics and the vision and the mission, for us it was really making sure that, hey, if we are providing web hosting and we knew that the web hosting industry at that point of time was terrible, how can we make it better? And when we saw that all the customers that we had and the prospects that we had were actually coming to us, and it wasn't just a matter of numbers and looking at your revenue grow. It was more of a, hey, these are actual people, actual businesses that were relying on us to provide a business and a service that they could use and they could rely on. And it just gave us that sense of responsibility that, what we were doing there was something that would make a difference in that industry.
And you exited Voiden at 30 million, right? So can you tell us the journey where you're making 12 million a year, 3-4 million in profit? What was the transition to go like, okay, let's sell this business? Was it somebody offered you, or was it like, okay, you had a epiphany moment, like, okay, we gotta sell it? Like, tell us that journey, because a lot of people, like even on podcasts, they like to ask how to start. But a lot of people never go into the details of when was the time you realized you want to sell, and then how do you even design the sell?
Oh, that's another long story in itself. Vodian was already the market leader in about 2015 or so. Market leader in Singapore with the biggest web hosting provider. And even the years leading up to that, we were already getting a lot of interest in the web hosting industry, in the web hosting space.
So people were already like starting to talk.
Yeah, they really are putting their feelers out. They were like starting to talk to us, and we were also fortunate to be in Singapore. Singapore before COVID especially was a MIC like venue space, right? And every quarter there will be an exhibition or conference of some sort that would be about cloud hosting, tech, and whatnot. And we will always have people coming into the country and just reaching out, having a coffee with us and talking to us. And we had multiple offers from various parties already at that point of time. In those years, right? These are people like venture funds, private equity, even operators, and they will be interested in the space. So it was only until like when we met our acquirer. So the acquirer was Dreamscape. Dreamscape is their holding company. The operating company is Crazy Domains, and they were the largest in Australia. Very similar story to Vodian. Operator founded, operator led, grew to where they were, and they became public and started looking at expanding. So part of the expansion was Southeast Asia, and when they looked at Southeast Asia, they found us. They found Vodian. They were looking at two primary countries, Malaysia and Singapore, and yeah, they found us. They started talking to us, amongst other players as well. And when we had our conversation with them, we found that similarity, and we liked that similarity. There was like that operator-led growth, that operator-led understanding of the market. When we went to visit them, so Vodian had a Philippines office, and Dreamscape also had a Philippines office, and our offices were actually next to each other.
Oh,
like
next door.
2 buildings,
Oh.
but like from our office building, you could see their building just next across the street. So when I went there to have a conversation with the CEO, I mean everything just felt like, hey, even some of our team members there knew the team members that they had also, and it was like, hey, this is great. It's like feels like we found a partner. And so when we first spoke about that.
So I'm gonna hold you there. So you're still discussing, right? But then you haven't quite did they give you an offer already or?
Oh yeah. Well, when they first approached us, so the CEO actually messaged me on LinkedIn. But then I don't use LinkedIn, so his message basically got ignored. Then he sent the email to my support help desk, and then my support guys were like, "Hey, Alvin, this guy is trying to talk to you. Do you wanna talk to him?" And then I was like, "Oh, Dreamscape, okay, let's have a conversation." And that's where we got started. After we got connected online, they actually flew down. They were very, very serious about acquisition. They flew down to have a conversation with us. And almost immediately they were very clear and very upfront about it. They said that they were looking to acquire, and then they made us an offer. They gave us I think 3 PE or something, which we completely rejected. We were like, no way.
Why you rejected?
Because it's only 3 PE. It was so PE is price earning ratio, right? And 3 PE basically means your profits, annual profits, times 3 years, right? So we were like, this is no.
Yeah. So what happened after that?
Yeah.
You went because I remember you did went on an acquiring spree yourself also, right?
The acquiring, we did acquire companies, but that was before our acquisition.
Or before the acquisition.
Yeah, so we acquired businesses as part of Vodian, and then we had our own acquisition.
So how do you get the deal that you want? Because later we're going to talk about the deal, but so they gave you 3 PE, you rejected it. So how did that turn into getting the deal that you want?
We just told them our number. For us, if we were to sell our interest in Vodian, we felt that we needed at least 10 PE. That was 30 mil.
And then what did they say?
Obviously,
They just say yes.
No, they took about 3-4 weeks. Then when I went over to the Philippines to look at the operations and all that, they gave us that offer to agree to our price.
Okay, so what do you learn from this? Just looking back, sometimes as entrepreneurs, you hear stories Clubhouse, they were offered 1 billion by Facebook, and then they didn't want to sell. Now they're worth almost nothing, right? But then you got stories like WhatsApp. They kept asking for more. You got your case is the 3 PE, and then you ask for 10, they give it to you. So where do you draw the line between knowing what to ask for, knowing what your value is, and then also knowing when to just accept the offer?
Oh, okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let's go one by one. So the main reason why we went ahead, right, was the motivation. We weren't looking at a pure exit. The main reason why we chose to go ahead with Dreamscape was again, they are operator-led and they wanted to expand. We were already the market leader in Singapore in 2016, 2017, and we also wanted to expand. But the thing that held us back was that we were still a private company. And expansion at that point in time meant a lot of risk, because as a private company in Singapore, if you wanted to take on like any debt, like bank loans and whatnot, as a director of the company, I needed to be a personal guarantor on any of the loans. And that was something that was a lot of risk. And for me, if you're looking at expansion, we wanted to see how we can actually partner up with somebody that didn't have that kind of risk exposure. Dreamscape was not only operator-led, they were also a public listed company. And as a public listed company, you no longer face that problem of having private personal guarantees and all that. You could actually raise funds to do whatever expansion or business, capital needs that you had. And so when we looked at
So that one was the first thing that ticked your box.
one of the things that ticked our box. And so the whole motivation behind that was so that when we agreed to the deal, we could expand together. And that was why we did the deal part shares and part cash.
Oh, so the 30 million was part share, part cash.
Part shares.
It wasn't
and
a
part
cash.
It wasn't a pure cash exit, right? So we took equity in the Dreamscape company, and we were supposed to grow the business together. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out. When we did get together, I think there was a lot of conflict in management styles and working styles, and so that didn't materialize.
Yes, so this is why we want to go to. So we kind of unpacked a bit. So when it comes to the exit, right? So it was a founder operator led. So you thought there was a lot of synergy, right? And then what happened was when you go in, and then when you started working together, then what was, other than management conflict, what, like, looking back, could you have foreseen it, or was it like it's just like until you went in only could you understand? Because like you probably did a lot of due diligence. You went to the Philippines office, you saw everything. Like looking back, like was it avoidable or was it like what?
You could probably do even more due diligence, but I'd say there'll be a limit to it. And so there's only so much that you can find out. And this is probably with any partnership. The better way to do it, I mean, if this was something that was a make or break kind of thing, the better way to do it, as with any partnerships, is probably to have a trial period, to have like maybe a project-based kind of exposure without even like talking about
So
equity
looking
or-
back, you would do this first.
No.
No, you then what would you
Well,
do?
I mean, we were happy because, again, this was a price that we dictated and we.
Oh, but
felt
yes,
that-
yeah, you did get a value that you wanted, right?
Yeah. So that was our, like, I don't know what we call that, baseline maybe. And so we knew that even if things hit the fan and went south, we had that.
You already had the cash exit, but then you also had the future growth potential from the equity. Is it? Okay, so when you wanted to exit, because like all these people offering, how was the conversation between your partner and your team? Was it like one person wanted to grow, one person wanted to stay, or was it like everybody just, okay, yeah, let's just sell?
I was just my co-founder and I. So yeah, we were. Are you talking about the sale
Yeah,
or
the sale, the sale.
the leaving?
The
everything?
sell first.
The sale. Yeah, that was something that we both felt because
You agreed early on, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, because you both aligned.
agreed during the discussion.
Yeah,
or agreed,
during the
like-
discussion.
Yeah, so we knew that for us, 3PE wasn't something that was even remotely like something that we would consider. We needed at least 10. So basically looking at our company and looking at the next 10 years, right, we felt that, we're very, very confident that 3 years will definitely be not a problem. I mean, if you look at it, if you're selling a company for 3PE, you're basically saying that I'm going to take today the 3 years of earnings, right? And so you'd probably be at a point where you're not confident or you don't know whether you can actually hold the company and grow the company or at least maintain the company for 3 years. For us, we were very confident of that. But in 10 years' time, we're not very sure. But we definitely knew that we could actually sustain the business for many, many years to come. And for us, I think 10 years was the sweet spot, and we felt that there was a number that was reasonable for us. And again, he and I also both knew and felt the pain of expansion already at that point in time. We definitely had to start pushing and growing into other countries if we needed to grow, and that meant, again, flying to the various countries, looking at the expansion opportunities, everything like that, and all that meant more capital, more resources that was needed.
But when you said, hey, I want 10 times my valuation, what was going on your side? Were you like damn confident we're going to get it? Or were you like, I'm not quite sure?
Even if they don't give us, then that's fine.
Oh, because you were ready to walk away from the deal, is it?
Yeah. I mean, we were definitely growing on our own. It's just a matter of like, how do we grow next, right? And how easy or how much more difficult would that be?
Will you say this confidence is attributed because you didn't need the money?
Yes.
Yes, because a lot of people, like I'm thinking back, like a lot of businesses, right? Why they cannot say no, or they get greedy because they know they cannot sustain the business. But whereas your case, you're very clear, like, which then leads us to when we started this whole podcast, is just how do we make sure we have money in the bank so that we don't need money?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a great position to be in. But even if there's no money in the bank, or cash flow is not like the best. I think what could be helpful also is knowing the value that you have as a company, right? If you're coming from a point of like desperation, that's going to be a big problem. But a position of strength would look like maybe you being a market leader, you having like a clear differentiation in like feature and benefit sets, some IP or technology that again is different, stuff like that actually sets you apart, right? Then you know that you have something that is of value, right? And on the negotiation tables, this is something that would be like your trump card. And you know that even if things go south, there will always be someone else, or there will always be another opportunity. And even if you don't go through that, then you can do things yourself, and you can either maybe take a bit more time, but you still get there anyways.
So what's your view about the Clubhouse situation? They were worth $1 billion, they said no, now they're worth almost nothing.
I mean, you hear of a lot of stories like that as well. So it really depends on, sometimes it's not just the strategy and the vision that you have, but also the economics.
The luck.
There's luck also definitely matters. But again, I mean, that's why when I look at businesses, I prefer to look at businesses that are grounded in actual value, the actual value creation. And once you have value creation, especially in the B2B space, it is really hard for a valuation to just disappear.
So when you sold Volden, like, is it okay to share, like, how much is shares, how much is cash?
Oh, half.
Half, okay. So you probably had a 50 million payout there, right? What did you do? What's the first thing you did? Like, everybody wants to know. Like, do you splurge on a Ferrari? Like, what do you do?
Man, people asked me that question before, but it's very anticlimactic because I didn't do anything.
Oh, you didn't invest?
The money came in my bank, and it was
And how do you feel? Like,
it was shocking to see
like so
that
many
amount,
zeros.
right? So I have a POSB savings
Yeah,
account.
it's
that
like
I had
it's a
when-
normal bank account, right?
Yeah,
It's not
this
even
was
the
my account that I had when I was a kid. My mom signed up the account for me. It's the same account that I have all my life. And suddenly one day I got the deposit. Deposit was like a mil plus or something. I got the deposit amount in my bank account, and I've never seen so many numbers in my bank account before. And to me, I was like, wow, it's kind of unreal. But nothing changed. The next day, we went back to work again, schedule as per usual. I was talking to my team, we were working on stuff, we had meetings. Things just continue as per normal. I think there is some context that needs to be shared though. You talked about Ferrari. I mean, I had a Lamborghini. I had it before the exit. And so I went through that already, and it was something that, I feel embarrassed to share, because like, I'm not proud of my Lamborghini ownership at all. I'm like, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone actually.
Why?
Because
that was before the exit, right? So
Before
it
the
was
exit.
like basically from the money from the business you guys were making, and then you just bought a Lambo. Okay, so
Yeah.
why?
So the Lamborghini to me was a dream car. You know, when I was a kid growing up on my computer, the desktop, Lamborghini, right? It was the same Lamborghini that. So my desktop wallpaper was an orange Lamborghini Gallardo. It's an LP 560, the convertible, and I absolutely loved it. And then one day, I actually saw that same model available. It was a second-hand model. And I saw it available. Exact same spec and the same color, orange with black trim. And I was like, wow, I need to have this, right? It was my dream car. And so I went out to get it. And I like to say that in my ownership of a Lamborghini, the only 2 days that I was happy were the day that I bought it and the day that I sold it. I just felt so burdened by the car.
Why? Is it like, oh, don't want to scratch it, where should I park it, that kind?
I mean, there is that too, because you want the car to look impeccable, right? But oh my god, so many stories. So, like, okay, I can go through a few, right? So I like parking my car like maybe away from other people, right? Because I don't want people to open their doors into my car and whatnot. So one day I parked my car next to it was a nice single lot, and no cars around me, but my right side was a fence. I think it was a power generator, and it was this green fence. So I parked my car, got out, did my stuff, came back. As I opened my door, got in, and closed my door handle actually got caught in the green chain link fence. And the door handle at the edge was like snagged, right? And the whole door handle flew off. It was plastic. It's a Lamborghini, right? But that door handle part was a plastic like case on the actual mechanism. And so my car now has this like black hole on the door. And I thought to myself, this is a Lamborghini, and the build quality is like that. I mean, you don't get that with a Toyota. The door handle just doesn't like fall off just like that. And I'm like, oh my god, okay, never mind. Another time I was driving my friend, Clarke Quay, the old hotel at Clarke Quay.
By the riverside.
By the riverside, right? So I pull up, I drop her off. She opens the door. It was at a pavement. She opens the door.
And it scratched the pavement.
Not just scratch. The door got stuck.
Oh dear.
She opened the door and the door got stuck in the pavement. Because I think it was too low or something, but like, oh my god. Then I had to actually exit my car, go to her side, and try to yank the door just so that you can get free again. And I'm like, oh my god, this is again not something that you will face if you drove a Toyota. Your door doesn't get caught or stuck in the pavement. There was one more time I was like driving home from work, peak hour traffic and all that. Suddenly I felt something wrong with the steering. It was weird. I pulled over. My tire had blown. I was like, okay, no problem. I called a tow truck. So no matter what car you drive, right, if you call a tow truck, right, you're going to be there for at least 20 minutes. I was there for at least 20 minutes. Peak hour traffic, everybody was going past. I remember there was a motorcycle that went past, slowed down, and then both him and there was a pillion as well. They were staring at me, pointing at me, laughing, and then after that they just sped off. And I was like, And that day was the day I needed to fly to the Philippines, I remember. Peak hour, it was a night flight. When it's peak hour and you have a Lamborghini and you want to find a tire replacement, you can't find a tire replacement that easily. You call, even if the tire shop is open, they will not have a tire for a Lamborghini available. You got to indent that stuff. And so I had to call so many shops to find a tire shop that actually had a tire available, that I could actually get it changed, and then try to make my flight. Then I also realized that the Lamborghini has a special tire nut in order to in order to release the wheel that I did not have. And then I had to call my Lamborghini friends to see who was available. I think I had to call a Grab or something to pick up that nut, that bolt or something, and then
Just to put it in. And then, so when was the moment like, sell this stupid thing?
I think about a year was the max that I felt that I was like, I had enough of this, and then I could go on and go on. Like even driving the Gallardo. I mean, the Gallardo is an older car, especially back then. They didn't have their e-gear. It was e-gear. They didn't have the dual clutch system. So there was one time I was reversing up somebody's house to park my car. The clutch burned, cause it was an uphill and you're not supposed to reverse a car uphill. I just gave up at that point of time. It's too much trouble.
Okay, so this is pretty hilarious. Okay, so coming back to Walden, like, this is very interesting because a lot of people actually think like when you exit a business, there's this big celebration, hoo-ha, shopping spree, but it's very different from it. It's just like business as usual, right? So let's talk a bit about when you split. Okay, when you and your partner split, what was the point when you realized, okay, we gotta exit? And then how was that exit? Like, was it a messy exit? Was it just, okay, like, this is not working, we're leaving? And how did they took it? Did they buy back your shares? All that.
Yeah, that was something that so the terms of our deal in the first place, we had no earn out, zero. The only thing that we had was a moratorium on our shares. So that we don't like just dump it on first day, right? So the moratorium just basically states that we should hold the shares for at least a year. So when we were gonna leave the company, it was actually a conversation that was quite straightforward, quite easy. I think
It was you and your partner and them?
me and my co-founder as well as the acquirer, right? Like, I think they were perfectly fine with it. They also understood that maybe there were some differences, and they were perfectly fine with not having us
So
around.
you guys left, and then but you should help.
It was still under moratorium, I think. But yeah, so eventually after the moratorium, we could just
Okay, so then, so it's known that after your exit, then what happened was Walden's service reputation suffered under the new business owners, right? So how did it feel watching your baby shrivel?
It was very disappointing. I mean,
I remember you told me like there were cases where people would call you and say, hey, what the hell is going on? Why are you not on this? But you already left the company. So.
yeah, I mean, even like just 2 days ago, I keep getting messages.
Even now?
Even now.
Wow.
Either LinkedIn or WhatsApp, or people search, right? Because they are so pissed off and so frustrated already because they cannot get help from the customer support team. They try to get the CEO, and I'm still listed as the Vodian CEO somewhere, or they find that somewhere, and then they find me, and then they text me or message me, and they complain to me saying that, hey man, there are problems, I cannot get any resolution and stuff like that, and I've explained that I'm no longer with Vodian.
And how does it make you feel?
I'm very, very disappointed. That's why when one of the Vodian guys, he was one of our top guys, he decided to leave and start his own business. I actually invested in that business. So it's a separate web hosting business called cldy.com that basically offers the cloud hosting services on the same promises, right? It was the pillar of like support, but in Vodian we had 4 main pillars: speed, support, security, stability, and they wanted to just do that all over again to provide that kind of the same levels of support.
And then you invested in him. Yeah, okay. So then you don't need to run the whole thing.
No, I'm not running the.
Okay, so after you exited, you went on a sabbatical. Tell us a bit about this sabbatical. You sold off everything. You decided to go Marie Kondo your whole life, like sell my thing, pack my shit, and then just live a quiet life. No company, no business, nothing. Tell us about what made you make that shift.
So you mentioned something just now about like the exit, right? The day where we got the exit and we had like the deposit, right? Nothing changed for us. But the day that I actually left the company, like completely left the company, something definitely changed for me. It was the next morning, right? Was the first morning ever in my life that I woke up
And you had nothing to do.
feeling lost.
Ah.
I never in my whole life had I had that feeling before, because there's always this responsibility that somebody will call me, or there'll be something on, or there'll be meetings or something to think about, or strategy, or whatever it is. There will always be something. That morning there was nothing at all. Nothing. And that left me with a very, very deep sense of loss. And it took me a few months to figure that out, until eventually I was like thinking to myself that I really needed a clean slate. And that was when I decided to sell everything that I had. I only had 2 duffel bags of stuff. I left 1 duffel bag at my parents' place. I took 1 duffel bag, and then I just went traveling full time for 2 years. And I think during that period was a period where it was traveling, but also quite introspective, because I was alone quite a lot of the time, and it got me thinking about like what really mattered and who I was, and that led me to, I guess, have a much better sense and much better idea of what was I going to do and what I wanted to do after that.
So what did you discover?
So one of the questions I kept asking myself is, every day, especially when I was traveling, was when I woke up, like, what do you want to do today? And I got so much more clarity after that, because when I was growing up and I was working on my business and all that, I think I was always very affected by what was around me, society, friends.
So what people expected of you to do?
Yeah, the norm, right? And that was something that I was always like affected or influenced by. I mean, that was again why I bought a Lamborghini, bought like watches, did all the typical stuff. But why? I never knew the why. And I started realizing that it wasn't something that resonated with me, and that was why probably I didn't feel that kind of pleasure or satisfaction from owning a Lamborghini. I didn't understand any of that at all. And after traveling and being introspective and thinking about myself and who I am, it gave me a much better idea of that. Right, that was when I realized I didn't need that. I didn't need that kind of validation. I didn't need to do those things. And to me, what my preferences were, my likes and dislikes, what they are, became a lot more clear. Like even when I travel, in the past I used to travel and I was like a typical like tourist, I guess, and I'll like do all the touristy things just because I thought that was the way to travel. And then I realized actually now I don't do that. I don't have to travel to do all the touristy things in order to travel. I could travel, go to a completely new place and not do anything at all, and I'll be happy. Just living life in a different country, different area, just trying to see how like people live their life. I think that alone just makes me happy.
So what do you want to do now? Because I know like after that, so okay, I think after the sabbatical you dabbled a bit, you do coaching, a bit of coaching, you wrote your own book, and then you also invested in businesses. So like what are you doing now?
So that coaching phase of my life was great. I called it super scaling. I wrote a book called Super Scaling as well, and I have a lot of clients who are now my friends as well. Very glad that I could help them in their businesses also, and that was great. But I realized that I was just diving into another business again, right? I was like, oh, let's be busy and let's do that, and one day I just realized I don't know what was the next 5 years, the 10 years, right? And I couldn't see myself doing that again because what was the point? I didn't understand what the point was. And so last year in 2024, I decided to just take a break again.
So right now you're on this sabbatical again.
Kind of. I actually closed the business down last year. I got married last year as well. Got a new place together with the wife, a new apartment. I now have 2 dogs. So now it's a period of like really like learning again. As a kid, I think one of the things that I absolutely loved was just like finding something that I was interested in and just learning and doing everything there is to it, right? Nowadays I'm like learning about AI. I got myself a 3D printer. I'm learning computer aided design. I'm doing like calisthenics instead of like going to the gym. I'm just like learning how to do stuff again.
Okay, before we talk a bit about your new sabbatical, okay, let's visit that book. Remember the book you talk about 5E. Can you give us what the 5E is, and then which one you personally struggled the most with yourself?
So the 5E scale engine was originally the 4E scale
originally
engine.
4, yeah.
Originally. So I used to think that there was just like 4 components. You just needed to have a vision, which is the envision pillar. You needed to like have a team that could actually run without you, and that was the empower pillar. And then after that, you also have your customers, right? And so you need to engage them well. So engage was the 4th pillar, or the other pillar, and then the last pillar is execute, because you want to make sure that you have operational and executional excellence, right? So that's execute. And I used to think that was all there is to it, because that's basically all there is to business, right? Anything that you touch will probably fall into these 4 pillars. And then I realized this is like having an F1 car without the driver. Because the entrepreneur, the business owner, is the guy that needs to lead and steer the ship. And so I realized the 4E scale engine needed to be the 5E scale engine. The one pillar that I lacked was the pillar of evolve. The business owner needs to evolve to be a different person at different stages of the business. Like who I was when I first started the business versus the initial growth stages versus like the time when we had 1 to 5 team members to when we had like 150 team members. Like every stage, I needed to be somebody different. And that's why evolve, I think, was something that I mean, yes, there was struggle, but I think that was the most important pillar as well. It's something that I needed
that was
to
the one you struggled
constantly.
with?
It was something that I constantly had to work on, because I had to continually learn newer and newer skill
Could you give us
sets.
a few examples? Like, what's the difference between 1 to 5, 5 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 50 employees? Like, what was the evolution you had to run through?
Very broadly, I think there are like 3 main stages. So first is the startup stage, where it's like, oh, everything's brand new. You don't even know whether there's like product market fit. You're not very sure about like everything, right? Typically, a solo founder right now, or maybe you have a co-founder, but that's just probably 2 of you. That's the startup stage, right? And you're wearing all the hats in the business. You don't have anybody at all. And then after that, you move on to the growth stage. The growth stage is where you start hiring. You have revenue. You're kind of clear about the business and the products that you have, the vision maybe. So there's some clarity, and you really hire. But when you hire at this stage, you're hiring for your weaknesses. So if you're like, so at that point of time, I was a programmer, developer. I started hiring for things that I was weak in or didn't really like to do, or took me a lot of time to do. Finance, billing, sales as well. And so I started hiring people in those areas first. And then when you go to the scale stage, the one key difference that you have there in terms of manpower is that you're no longer hiring for your weaknesses really. You're hiring for your strengths. You're basically looking at hiring people that can replace you. You do not want to be operational in the business in the sense that you don't want to be executional in the business anymore. You are no longer at a stage where you should actually like do work. And then you start hiring people that are better than you in all the areas that you have. You should not be owning any other hats in the business except the hat of the CEO or the management role that you are playing. And I think that's the greatest like change in terms of manpower from all these 3 stages. As a business owner, I needed to make sure that I could evolve through the stages. As the solo founder in the startup phase, I needed to be the person that could do everything. And I could program, I could cold call, I could do sales, marketing, and do all of that, right? And I had to do that well. As I started progressing, right, it's not that I had to do that well. I had to let go of those roles. And at first you could hire for weakness, like I said, right? But when you get to hiring for your strengths, it was such a different mindset, because you actually had to trust other people
With
to
lesser experience, who didn't build this together to be able to do it better than you.
and let go of the reins of the business, right, or that area of expertise, right, to those people. um, and so there's a lot of mindset change, um, uh, and in terms of leadership and management, you have to start learning how to lead and manage those people as well that you previously did not have, because you were either handling that or because the team was way smaller. And so again, in those aspects, you have to like learn and grow and adapt as well. um, yeah, when I was like handling 150 people, I think one of the roles that I started playing a lot more was that of a people developer, organizational like manager already. I was a developer at day one, and when I look at the last year of Vodien, I was like completely just handling people and strategy instead. So the evolution was something that we constantly had to do to make sure that you could actually like keep up and make sure that you're able to be somebody that leads that kind of growth.
And would you say that after going through this whole journey, right, most entrepreneurs, how important their mindset, their willingness to learn or evolve plays a part in the business?
Tremendously important. I think the single most thing that will make or break the business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has to. I mean, you are as the business owner, you are going to be the guy that makes the decisions that would change your business. So I remember at the start when the first few years where I hired people, I couldn't even like let go of certain things, and I either didn't trust them or I felt bad because I didn't want to bother them. And
Wow.
there was all these things
And then the funny thing is, you paid them to do the thing you want them to do, but you can't let go.
yeah, and that could be one reason also, but there are other mindsets also. The mindset of like, I'm the leader and therefore I should do more and sacrifice more for my team. That could be one mindset also. There could be another mindset where, and it could be completely different, where my team just handles everything. I'll just let my team handle and do everything.
And then you let go too much.
Let go too much, yeah. And you let go too much, there's no oversight, there's no management, and that will fail as well. I mean, I also had that happen in certain areas, and complete like delegation is not gonna work if there's no management oversight, if there's no like monitoring, if there's no like supervision, there's no training. So I mean, there's like so many permutations that are out there that you need to be aware of. And that's why the evolution is so important, because that self-awareness that you have to reflect and change the way things are, and knowing where things are not going well, so that you can actually get to a point where you want, right, that kind of desired outcome. That evolution is critical.
So let's jump back to your sabbatical, right? Let's talk a bit about like what made you wanted to find your current partner, and how did you find her, and then what important role she plays in your life right now to be able to get married, all of that. So let's talk a bit about that. So how do you started first? Okay, I know you are a very handsome, attractive man, so from the willows of our close friends, you had a spreadsheet tracking every date you had. Can you talk a bit about that first? Like, do you had the perfect 100 list and then you benchmark it against the score like a program, or what? Like,
Well, so okay, it's not that I want to be like anal about all these like things, but so the context was, I mean, I had relationships in the past already, and those relationships I had typically didn't last more than a year or two, and I'll just from one relationship jump to another, and all that. And again, it was during that sabbatical that made me realize like what really was important to me, right? In the past, I think my main criteria in a relationship was that she needs to be hot. That's it. and that's a terrible criteria. You need to be a lot more aware of what is important to you. So, a lot of times people talk about, how communication is important, right? But what does that really mean? because the way I communicate is going to be different from you communicating, and everybody has their own different communication style. And that was something that I learned from my business as well. When you talk to 150 different people, you realize that when you say something, it can be interpreted in like 150 different ways, and that's the complexity of relationships, right? Whether it's a business relationship or even a romantic relationship. And so in the past, I realized that I wasn't communicating well. I wasn't like expressing myself well, and I wasn't being understood, or like I wasn't understanding as well. And so I was also working on communication, and as a result, I needed somebody that could evolve together with me in that process. Somebody that was open to adapt, to learn, to grow together.
So the values you were looking for is like something like growth, evolution, understanding, willing to learn. So,
those are very, very important to me. Yeah. So I needed somebody that could do that. And I mean, these are just some things, but of course there are other things, right? Can you get along well? Do you have like living habits that are compatible? I think the one fundamental thing that I looked at everything, right, was compatibility.
do you think chemistry is important or compatibility?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know the definition of
So chemistry is like like when some people they come together, they just like vibe. So that's chemistry.
And is that chemistry just like a short-term initial
Yeah,
thing,
it's
or
a
is it
feeling. Like it will say it's it's a fire, it's a feeling. Versus compatibility is like I may be compatible with you, but there's no passion, there's no fire.
Oh, yeah. Then in that case, chemistry is definitely important as
It's
well.
both.
So you need to have chemistry and compatibility as well. There must be attraction. So when I talk about compatibility, I think it's in three main areas. There's the physical aspect, there's the mental aspect, and then there's the emotional aspect as well. So physical compatibility, I think, is again important. Right? It's not just the looks, right? It's everything.
The living style, all that. No,
Yeah,
because you got cases like Alex Hormozy going out and say just like, hey, this is how my wife, like we were just compatible. We didn't have anything, but it's like, you want to do it, you do it, let's do it. So then people are thinking that that's a relationship. So I just want to know your view.
I heard about the Hormozy story as well, and I think fundamentally they were compatible. And I don't know what the details are, but for him it worked. For me, I had to be a little bit more discerning and took time to figure out that compatibility. So I had to actually design tests to make sure that
So you design tests.
yeah.
Like, give us an example. This
so
is so
it's-
fascinating.
It's like in business also,
Yeah.
right?
Like when you hire somebody, you go through rounds.
you want to go through tests, right? And you want to test not everything. You want to test everything that was necessary for the job to be performed, right? And when a test fails, also you don't just go like, hey, you're fired. No, it's more of like, hey, this didn't meet expectations, right? And an expectation is something that's communicated. If the expectation is there but not communicated, that's going to be another problem as well. So I took a lot of learnings from the way I ran the business into my romantic life as well. And the way I ran my business again was something that I was like figuring out, like, how do you do everything from a very systematic point of view? Because when the business was growing, the thing that I couldn't let happen was things failing and breaking. So everything had to be really systematic. And I transferred that into my romantic dating life as well. And I wanted to make sure that when I date, I didn't want to repeat what I had in the past when my relationships would fail after one after another. So I wanted to test the various elements of compatibility. So I tested, like, for example, one of the things that was really important to me is I wanted to see if that my date is somebody that's independent or somebody that has the etiquette. So I don't mind paying for meals. Like I would pay for meals, but it is something that is really nice to see if the girl offers to pay. Just offering is fine, right? So when she does that, I'm like, oh, that's really nice, because if she treats me as her ATM, then I don't like that feeling, and I don't think it's a a very good thing in my relationship to have. The other thing is, how does she treat people? And when you treat people, I realize people a really good way to see somebody's true colors is when that person interacts with another person that has no power or lesser power or value than he has or that she has. The best way to do this, or the best way to see this, is like in a restaurant, when the way they interact with the wait staff. Are they polite? Are they demanding? Are they unreasonable? I think that shows and demonstrates certain qualities about that person as well. So I like to see, empathy, friendliness, politeness, in that regard as well. I've seen like business people who, utterly fail at
Empathy.
at those areas, and then you start to realize that it's not the red flag and something that breaks everything, the deal breaker, but it's a sign, it's a signal. So it's one of the things that I look out for as well. And so there are various things. You check compatibility with finances, in terms of financial health for the future, financial goals for the future. You check compatibility with like friends and family. You check. One of my favorite tests is taking a trip overseas. Not just taking a trip, but planning the trip and how you are on the trip as well. Because the whole experience shows me quite a lot, right? Can reveal quite a lot. From how you plan to organize, to how you delegate or you help each other in that whole process, to your preferences, likes and dislikes in choosing a hotel or a destination or an activity, to actually like living together and actually traveling together, right? And I like it because it's self-contained. It's 1 week, 2 week, 2 days or whatever. Self-contained test of just doing things together. So that's one of my tests as well. It's like
So then what you did, you created a spreadsheet, and then you tracked every date.
the spreadsheet was there more for I like to. Okay, so I was dating, right? And I had a few dates going on, and it was really hard to keep track of everything, right? Like who she is, what she likes, her family background, everything. So I had like a spreadsheet
To
to
just track everything.
help track all
And
of
then
that.
how did you met your current partner? And what she brings to the table?
How we met was on an app. This is not sponsored, but Coffee Meets Bagel. that was awesome. We met there, started talking, hanging out, going on dates.
So what made you know she was the one?
She basically went. She
She
when
ticked
I
all the
realized she
boxes
was-
on the...
so she was compatible, like everything. So again, I'm not looking at like 100 marks out of 100 marks, right? I'm just looking at compatibility across all areas. There will definitely still be conflict. There will definitely still be problems. But again, like one of the things that I look out for is the ability to have conversations, difficult conversations where you feel hurt or misheard and upset, but the other party is willing to listen and change.
How do you think having difficult conversations as a business owner is important? Because a lot of business owners, they run from difficult conversations, especially in their partnership or especially with their teams, okay?
It is so crucial. Like, I'm not the most
Expressive person.
I'm not the most expressive, not the most like charismatic, smooth, eloquent talker. Especially as a kid, because I was the shy kid that went to the library, read books, and played games all day long, and that was my life. And then suddenly I was like managing a team. I suddenly had a business partner. Suddenly I had all these things happening, and I had to learn communication skills. I remember there was one day, two of my staff like had a big argument, and they were like extremely upset at each other. I think we were still at about 15 people or so at that point of time. So I had to actually step in and get them to reconcile their differences and to actually like understand that, you know, they're not what the cause of the argument was, why it was happening, and to actually like shake hands after that and, you know, resolve the whole issue. Even between the partners as well, like I mentioned at the start when I started with my co-founder, we basically just did everything ourselves, right? Wearing all our hats. As you started growing, you realize that you can't do that anymore. And I mean, you naturally can't because you simply don't have the time and you don't have the abilities. And sometimes things fall, balls fall, right? Or, you know, whatever happens, right? And that's when we realize that you actually need to have boundaries. You actually need to have clear, again, communications about that. Like who's supposed to do what and why. And if you don't want to do that, say it. If you want to do that, say it. You know, that kind of thing. You have to be actually clear and actually like able to express that and able to hold that conversation, because sometimes people don't want to have that conversation, but somebody needs to ensure that conversation still happens.
And would you say, like, entrepreneurs, like, would it make sense, like, I don't know, like, is your partner similar to you or opposite to you?
My wife, wow, she's like completely like different.
Yeah, so like a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes they have the idea like go find somebody exactly like you.
That was me. I was like,
That was your original. And then what made you shift from finding somebody exactly like you to going, let's just find somebody totally opposite of me?
so I guess that wasn't something that I was deliberately looking out for. I was still dating people that, you know, like me, right? Like entrepreneur or whatever, right? So I thought that was the kind of archetype. But for some reason, I think my wife's like completely different. I guess it's the same but different, right? Similar values, similar outlook in life, similar like goals, but the way we do things very different. I'm very systematic about things. She not so much. But we both get things done the way in our own way, right? And you know, I guess as long as there's respect and appreciation for the way you do things, I think that's good enough. Like just like in a team, right? If I was the micromanager and I only hired people that look like me, acted like me, then you know the company's not going to do very well. But if you are able to understand that the diversity, that difference in team, your team members, right? I think they will let you, you know, get more varied strengths, different way of doing things, different perspectives. And as a team, you are going to be a lot stronger. So that's the same thing that I see happening in like romantic relationships as well. As well, at least for mine. Yeah, we have different perspectives, different attitudes, different ways of doing things, but you know, still having that same vision together as a couple, the same like, like a company strategy, like.
So it sounds like you, if you look at your whole journey, right, like you went through a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error, where a lot of people they shy away from trial and error. So my question to you is, do you believe failure is truly required to succeed? Like to make mistakes, then I can succeed? Or do you believe like I can just succeed just like that?
I'm sure there are cases where people can just succeed just like that. So it's not a matter of, you know, needing to fail. It's more of a matter that you just have to try until you get to success. And the way I see failure is more like that of a scientist. So when a scientist, right, when they prove hypothesis, sure, like you might just get it on the very first try, or very first time. But more likely, what's going to happen is you're going to go through a series of experiments that will fail. But it doesn't matter, because every time you fail, you just basically eliminate a variable until you get to that success
That's
scenario.
a very interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So in business, in life, I think I see it as that. If you're just like trying, and you fail and you give up, right? You're just basically saying that you're saying that one time you're doing it is the only time that matters. But that's not the case at all. It should be seen like
On overall.
there is this process that you're going on, right? And that failure is just one step.
I think the one thing you mentioned is like time gives us a lot of perspective. If I look at it from one moment, it looks like I failed. But if I look at it from a perspective of 1 year, it's just I'm just trying different things. Yeah. So my question to you now is, if you lost your wealth, right? If you didn't have Voldian, your companies, your reputation, who is Alvin without the business success?
Wow. I think at the core of myself, I'm just somebody that's very curious, somebody that's a learner. Like all the stuff about computers that I went through. Like even now, like when I'm like learning about 3D printing and AI and calisthenics, I'm just very curious, and I want to learn more about it. And I think the second thing that matters also is how you do it. And for me, I think I'm a very, very systematic person in the way that I like to, in any system, you need to know both the intrinsic and extrinsic sides of things. Like internally, what drives you, what's the motivation, and extrinsically, like how the whole process looks like, so that it's systematic. And that's something that I think fundamentally will be who I am and how I will approach things.
So what's next? Like, what are you wanting to discover?
Those few things are on my plate right now.
Just
3D printing, I'm just like creating stuff with the 3D printer. I'm learning calisthenic skills right now that I never used to be able to
and
do.
you have no plan whatsoever. What's next? You just like going in the flow
for
for the next 1 year, 2 years.
Like for business?
For your life or business.
Oh, I mean, those are the things that I'm working on right now.
So and then just see what comes up.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the part where some people think like, oh, the reason why you can explore or be curious is you got money, right? So how do you think? Like there are people who they want to be curious about life, they want to explore things outside what they're doing, but then it defocuses them from the thing that they're doing now.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you just go explore and drop all your commitments and responsibilities. I'm saying that, and that's what I'm doing now for myself. But if I were to start a business again or to start a career again, then I'll be very focused on things that would help me progress in that area.
So if you were to rewind time, we would literally just, okay, you build the business. Once the business steady, then I explore, not explore first, then to build the business.
You can explore first also, depending on the amount of time that you have. If let's say I was now a fresh graduate, maybe I only have like 1 or 2 years to either start a career or start a business, I'll start like giving myself a timeline. First of all, to understand what aspect or what skill sets am I most interested in. Like for example, accounting and finance will probably be something that some people will look at. I don't like that. I'm probably not going to be doing very well in that, just simply because it doesn't really interest me that much. But I'll probably look at sales, marketing, product, programming, areas like that a lot more. And from there, I'll start to be even more focused into the exact skill sets that I want to master, whether it's public speaking, whether it's cold calling, whether it's sales techniques, whether it's marketing, branding, or whatever it is, right?
So first, like, don't just have an open book, just kind of like limit, like have a range, then have a time limit, then go explore it.
Yeah, just fully commit to it. And when I say fully commit, it's not like waking up, hanging out with people, watching YouTube, for example. Consuming is great, but like you should consume with an intent, not consume with like just treating it like entertainment, right? So consume with an intent basically is like searching for tutorials on how to do certain things, like how do I design a 3D part that can rotate, right? For example, that's very specific. And then with that knowledge, immediately go apply. I mean, that was how I started my business as well. Like I literally went to school, I asked questions about problems that I faced at home or in my business on specific, whether it's like how to program a website or how to create a membership portal or how to record like certain details. Like I mean, I knew that was the problem, and I went to actively search for the solution to it, and then try implementing it so that I could learn
Immediately.
and yeah.
Who do you say growing up or throughout your whole journey so far, who do you say is your role model?
I think I had a lot of role models.
But if like right now, who stood up the most? Or if you're looking back, who stood up?
Right now, wow. I think growing up, my dad was like definitely one of my bigger role models, right? Like one of the things that he taught me was that there's always a way, and he'll figure it out. He's not very educated. Like he left school after primary school, so at like 12 years old. And the cool thing about him is that he doesn't let that stand in his way, right? Like he taught himself how to build computers, and even though he had no software knowledge at all, no programming or computer knowledge at all, he like figured out how to like set up computers and all that, even install computers, right? And things in the house that broke or didn't work anymore, he could repair or learn how to repair it in himself. And I think that's super cool, because I think that mindset helped me a lot, even in business, right?
Because it sounds like you adopted his mindset.
Yeah, it definitely was something that was very, very pivotal in my life, because it showed me that no matter what happens, if there was a problem, there's always going to be a way to fix it, right? To solve it. It might not be the most apparent. It might not be the easiest, but there will always be a way to solve things. And I think that was very, very helpful in my whole life.
So, would you say you're happy and fulfilled now?
Pretty much, yeah, for sure.
Well, what's the secret to happiness and fulfillment?
Clarity. I think clarity is really important. Like in the past, I used to think that material goods are like the secret to happiness and all that. But actually, at the end of the day, if all that makes you happy is, for example, maybe reading a book, a nice novel, maybe, where nobody disturbs you and you can just read in peace. I think that's something that is quite rare these days as well, to have that ability to have that space. If that's all that matters, then search for that and have that in your life, right? You don't need to have a Lamborghini. So and this is very, very individual to everyone, right? So what is it? And that's clarity. Knowing that, I think, helps you find that happiness and that contentment so much faster, so much easier.
So, last question. If right now somebody's listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, they're on the way to work, 15 minutes drive, what last piece of advice will you share with?
Oh, be super intentional. It's why I have this tattoo as well.
Tell us more a bit about the tattoo.
This tattoo is inspired by the old school nautical tattoos. Sailors would have this, and for them it was to signify them, knowing the direction and being able to get to that destination, right? And I love that, because when I was a kid, I chose to go to a polytechnic, and that was not a typical route. Like my parents and again society, the typical route was to go to a junior college so that you could do your A-levels and get to university. I managed to actually get to a junior college, but I didn't want to stay there. And I told my parents that I wanted to go to a polytechnic instead, so that I could learn more about computers. And I'm very, very glad they allowed me to do so. But I would not have done that if I wasn't intentional.
You wouldn't have built Voiden, you wouldn't have the life you have if you weren't.
So that's why I'm so like, clarity over your intention needs to be there in everything that you do. Whether it's managing your team, growing your business, dating, marrying someone, even like your family life, everything needs to be super intentional. Like, what is it that you're looking at achieving? If you don't know what your destination is, then any road will lead you there, right? And so the clearer you are to your destination, the clearer your intents are, the clearer it is for you to do anything in life.
Thank you so much for joining us, Alvin.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice.